Are you really bad at delegating? If so, you're like every other lawyer I know, including myself, and today I want to talk to you about how to delegate better.
Welcome to the Josh Gerben Show, because law school didn't teach business.
Hi everybody, this is Josh Gerben and welcome to episode 29 of the Josh Gerben Show. And today we're going to talk about delegating. It is something that I have personally struggled with in my law practice, and I know just about every other lawyer that I've ever talked to has trouble delegating. And perhaps the number one reason we have trouble delegating as attorneys is because we think no one is going to do the work as well as we are. And while that's a fair thing to think, it's also the one thing that holds us back from growing our practices and growing our businesses. So I want to talk to you today about 3 steps you can take to delegate better in your practice so that you can free your time up to work on your practice, to work on the business and expanding it rather than just in it. The first step is to realize what you do is not that special. It can be delegated. Realize that anything you're doing can be delegated. Once you have that realization, once you come to that epiphany, life will start to become easier for you. So step 1, realize you're not that special. Things you do can be delegated. Number 2 is identifying what you do need to delegate. Because identifying what the specific tasks are to delegate is critical to being able to get things off your plate. And of course, step 3 is actually delegating, doing the training of others so that they can step in and do the work that you need to delegate. So let's go through each of these in a little bit more detail. Again, our first step is realizing that you can delegate. You're not that special. 90% of what you do can be delegated. And I'll be the first to tell you that I have violated that rule over and over and over again. I thought that I could never delegate someone handling the leads that our firm gets. I thought it was too precious. How could somebody else take the call with a prospective client? What if they don't tell them the right thing? What if the client ends up going somewhere else? What's going to happen? You know, I was taking 2 or 3 hours a day just to answer calls coming into the firm to give them information about trademarks. And maybe 10, 20% of those people would end up signing up with the firm. And I did delegate those calls to a very skilled paralegal. And you know, we closed the same amount of work, if not a little bit more, because that paralegal is not rushed on the phone, right? You know, if I had a whole bunch of calls, I might rush somebody when I'm on the phone, but this paralegal has time and he can sit there and explain things and be really kind to potential clients and not rush them. And we close just as much of our leads as we do now as when I was personally handling them, the owner of the firm. So I never thought it could be done. It's been done. I also thought I could never delegate certain types of client counseling. I thought, man, how is someone else going to explain the nuances that I do when I'm reviewing a trademark search report and I talk to a client and I give them really practical advice? How is somebody else going to do that? Guess what? There's plenty of other attorneys that can do that. Now, do they do it at 100% as good as I do? Maybe not 100%, but 80, 90%? Sure, no problem. They might not do every last little touch I want. But 80% of what you do as the owner of a firm, if somebody could be 80% as good as you, that's very, very good. And your clients are not really going to miss a beat. So I never thought I could delegate these things, and I have. And by delegating, I have gotten all sorts of time back to now go out there and grow the practice. I make videos like this. I do strategic thinking. I put in place new programs. I improve our systems. I improve the advice that the firm is providing to clients. I have all these things I can do because I freed up that time. And really I think the other thing here about, just saying that yes, you can delegate and realizing that what you can get things off your plate, even if you thought it wasn't possible, that you absolutely can. So I think that some of it's laziness. It takes a lot of work to train someone to answer the phone and take the leads. It takes a lot of work to train a new attorney to take a search call, to do the things that we want them to do with counseling. It's not easy. But when you put the time in and you train someone and you get someone doing the work, all of a sudden your life changes. So it might be a hard month or 2 or 3, but doing the work and putting the work in and not being lazy about it, because that's really what it is. Let's talk about what it is. It's laziness to not delegate, because you're just like, oh, I can do this faster. I'll just get it done now. It'll be done. But then you have to do that 100 times more as opposed to having somebody else do it for you. So just remember that. You're just being lazy. If you're trying to motivate yourself, just be like, stop being lazy. Why are you being lazy, right? Delegate. Now, the second tip here is you really have to figure out how to identify things to delegate, right? You have to identify what are things that are taking up your time that you really need to get off your plate. For me, the way I did this is I look at my email every day. My email is kind of like a to-do list, right? It's like I've got to get this trademark search reviewed. I have to get this to a client. I have to answer these leads. So I organize things into buckets of work. I say, okay, leads is one bucket of work. Reviewing trademark searches and providing client counseling is another bucket of work, right? All these different buckets that I have. And by identifying the different buckets, I can now say, okay, this bucket, who does this go to? Who would this be good for? Is this a paralegal task? Should I be training a paralegal to do this? Or do I need an attorney to do this task? And how do I train that attorney? So by identifying, going through my email and being able to identify all these different buckets of work, and you don't have to do it with your email, you can do it other ways, however your work is managed, but find the buckets of work that you can delegate. Don't just try to delegate an email that comes in, okay? This is the important point here. You're not just delegating an email. You're delegating a whole bucket of type of work. So just keep that in mind. That's really important. So this way here, when an email comes in that fits within that bucket of work, you know where it goes. Or the person that's handling it knows how to get that email and handle it. All right, so now that we've talked about not being lazy and realizing you can delegate things and you're not that special. It's a really good build you up kind of episode. And identifying that you need to find buckets of work to delegate. Now the question is, how do you do it? Because that always is where I think people get the most stuck. And I want to tell you how I've trained my folks when I've delegated tasks. This is how I've trained folks. So the first thing I'll do is I use a program called Screencast. And what this lets me do is it lets me click in my screen and I create a little video on my screen, and it lets me literally record a video of what I'm doing on my screen and talking people through it. So instead of having to have that awkward, come to my office for 3 hours and let me show you how I do this, I will just literally record a 20 or 30 minute video to walk them through how I'm doing something. The benefit of that video is, one, we don't have to meet up on certain time of day or anything like that. I can just do it in the comfort of my own office, or in today's coronavirus world, I do it at home, right? So we don't have to have an awkward Zoom meeting or anything like that. And once I create the video, the person that's getting it, the trainee, can watch it over and over and over again. So if you sit there and you train somebody and you're telling them how to do something, probably 10% of that's retained. Well, if you send them a video, they can watch it once, get the lay of the land, watch it again. They can understand every little step along the way because they can learn at their own pace. They're not sitting there worried that you're giving them information, they're not going to remember it, and oh my God, they're going to have to ask you a question about this, and they're worried. No, they can just learn at their own pace. It's a great, wonderful thing. So again, I'll put this in the show notes, but Screencast, you just go in there, it's like a $10 program, it's nothing, and you can create these training videos just showing people how to do the work. Now, in other cases, if you're trying to train somebody on, for example, how to answer leads, I think that there's things you can do. One, checklists I think are wonderful, right? So you need to create checklists for the task that needs to get done. What are the different things that have to get done in order for this task to be done appropriately? So having a checklist for a lead, making sure we respond within a few hours, right? Making sure they're provided with pricing information, making sure that we've offered them an appointment with an attorney. All these different things that we can ask the person that's taking the lead to check the box on to make sure they get through certain things. I will also, and this is something that I just said not to do, but I will do this in certain things, I will just have the person trail me and let them see how I'm handling things. Because while I want to have very specific training materials that they can refer back to, sometimes just hanging out with you and getting the lay of the land and how you're handling things can be helpful to someone that's trying to learn a particular task. So I wouldn't lean on that as the only way to train somebody, but I think it can be sort of something you add to the mix as you're trying to delegate tasks. So as you can see here, delegating is not easy, right? I mean, we're going to have to spend a lot of time coming up with checklists, coming up with videos, training videos to send to people you're trying to train, letting people tail you and see what's going on in how you're handling things. All those things take a lot of time and effort. But if you put the time and effort in, the reward is that all of a sudden you have someone that can take this bucket of work off your plate, and you freed up all this time to work on something else for your firm, or hey, even to get out and do something for yourself personally, spend more time with your family, or whatever it is you want to do. So I hope you found this helpful. I will be honest, delegating has been the thing that's held me back. And it continues to hold me back. Okay, I'm making this video today, and there's probably 10 things in my inbox that should be delegated that I will handle today. I'll be the first to admit it, I'm not perfect, but I'm working on it. And these are the steps I'm taking to work on it. So I hope you found this helpful, and what I would really enjoy is if you send me back any tips of yours that you have discovered when trying to delegate work that work for you. Because ultimately, the tips I have here, they're what's working for me now, but I'm always looking to improve. So if you've got any tips, please leave them in the comments, or you could always feel free to get in touch with me. It's just josh@joshgerben.com. I'm always happy to have a conversation about the business of law. So I hope you found today's episode helpful. If you did like it, please give us a like on whatever platform you're on, leave a rating or review, share it with a friend. That's how I get the word out about the show, and anything you can do to help me do that would be much appreciated. I hope you stay safe and healthy through the holiday season here in 2020, and I'll talk to you next time.